This is Jeffrey with another edition of Stock Smart, the February 9th, 2021 edition. Hope everyone is doing well. I want to talk about some news. The market's down today, and having reviewed the S&P 500 oscillator, we're slightly overbought. And so that's an indicator of how much purchasing is going on in stocks within the S&P 500. We're at a level right now, slightly overbought. So today, the market being flat or down a little bit, it's not a surprise. The oscillator measures how much buying is going on, and generally when it hits this level it's at, or slightly higher, it will have a tendency to kind of unwind as the market takes a breather and then resets. So don't be surprised. We've had about 7 up days in a row, so don't be surprised if we get a couple, 2 or 3 down days as it unwinds. I think one thing I'm noticing now, and I think professionals who are in this industry, either financial advisors or wealth managers like myself, I think they're going to enjoy the new presidency because of the lack of the volatility that's created by the administration. When Trump was in office, you had constant volatility, especially in the first 2 years. Most advisors or wealth managers had a hard time reacting and gauging the seriousness of the Trump tweets. And Trump would come out and he would talk about China, he talked about the steel industry, he would talk about TikTok and then Oracle, and it would greatly affect the stocks and or the companies that he would tweet about. And that became a real nightmare for the market, as you would see massive declines or massive bumps up, creating a lot of volatility. So I think as an advisor, where you can go back to a normal presidency where, you know, when Obama was in office, he rarely ever spoke at the stock market. And I think Biden will maintain a discipline like that. So not to be the last one of the party, but I did invest a little bit in Bitcoin, and because I wanted to watch it. And I wanted to learn even more about it. So far, my investment, I did not buy a full Bitcoin, but I did buy a little bit because I wanted to test it. It's already up about 8%. I purchased it, and I purchased it because I really did want to see. What I've noticed is that Elon Musk is somebody, he can move stocks. He's proven over the last year when he tweets about a company or a company related to Tesla or puts anything out there, the joke was the Dogecoin that he made fun of in a way. Tesla's entry, buying 1.5 billion of Bitcoin, makes it sort of legitimate. And I think other companies now will have to look at probably getting into Bitcoin in some respects. And there's rumblings about Apple making a similar investment at some point, and reports that other companies may start to look into investments of Bitcoin. It remains to be seen, though, the price of, when a company has money. So what Tesla's doing is essentially they have cash reserves. And most companies do not want to have such a volatile investment as a cash reserve, because when they need it, it may not be there. And Bitcoin, we know, has a tendency to go from 30,000 to 27,000 to 27,000 to 40,000. It's very volatile. So it remains to be seen if many companies will actually get involved with Bitcoin, because it is a very big risk to cash reserves. So we'll see. And we're going to talk a little bit more about Bitcoin later and in future shows, because I am getting a lot of questions about it. And I'll update you on my purchase and how it's going. So let's talk about a stock that I'm looking at.
Stock Watch.
IBM and Palantir. I'm actually going to talk about 2 stocks. So IBM is the wastebasket of tech companies now. It really was so far behind in terms of getting into the cloud, having any kind of products that anyone who would build applications. And I've been in the application world for years. And rarely did we ever use an IBM product. I would remember back 25 years ago when maybe we used IBM's DB2. But other than that, I can't think of a single IBM product. And I've built custom web applications and database applications for years. I haven't used a product of theirs in years. And so IBM has been way, way behind. Its stock price resembles that. The only thing that it has going for investors really is the dividend at 5.2%. But if you're losing 8% every year, your dividend's worthless. It's a negative 2.8% carry. So how good has that dividend been? It hasn't been good. I did list it as a dividend aristocrat this year because I do believe that they are making moves towards improving and getting more relevant in the cloud space. They purchased 6 different software and fintech type companies in the last year. And they recently now have partnered with Palantir, who's a data analytics, security, and software company. And Palantir is going to be licensing their products on the IBM platform, which is Red Hat. So this makes it very interesting. Palantir especially, because Palantir only has a sales force of like 30, 35 people. They're going for large institutional clients right now. But this will open up Palantir to a sales force with IBM of nearly 2,000 or 3,000 people. So Palantir has a great chance to grow here with IBM. And it makes IBM look hip. And IBM does not look hip. It's the old guys in the blue suit with a tie. That's what the IBM, idea is. The old saying was, you don't get fired for hiring IBM. Well, now you would because people don't care about IBM anymore and it's not really relevant in the cloud space. So the Red Hat acquisition that they made a year plus ago, which they paid a lot of money for, got them onto the relevant platforms of Linux and all these servers that they're now able to access. But they don't have products. So what they need to do is they need to have their products sitting on that desktop. Well, that's why buying or partnering, I should say, with Palantir is such a huge thing for IBM. So I would watch hand in hand IBM and Palantir. IBM's price has gone down. It had really bad earnings at the beginning of the year. They're at 121. It fell off a cliff. It was a high of about 151. So it's in a good buying zone. I would probably recommend dollar cost averaging into it because it could still remain volatile, but it's very inexpensive right now. So that combined with the dividend, make it interesting, and this Palantir business relationship, because that'll, again, when we're talking about these software companies and applications, we're talking about entrenchment. And that you're not going to see this gigantic swoop of growth for IBM, like a hockey stick or something on the chart. But what you're going to see is a gradual growth of entrenched clients that will have accretive revenue to their bottom line. So I do like IBM in the future. I think it is inexpensive. I think it's been beaten down pretty hard. And I think the dividend is worth looking at. Palantir, same thing. They're growing. This gives them huge sales force to put all their products in the cloud with IBM, which gives them access to millions of servers now. So I'd watch for that. And those are stocks we're looking at. So question for the week.
The average investor,
I should say, is from Michelle. And she wants to know, why does Bitcoin have value? And Bitcoin has value because, of course, it's a store of value, I should say. When we think about stored value, we think about things like gold or precious metals, and they maintain their value because they pretty much stay the same over long periods of time. Gold is heavy, it's hard to store, it's expensive to store. But Bitcoin, that lives essentially in the cloud space, in the blockchain, if you were, has value because it's limited in the amounts that are actually created. There's only, according to the Satoshi, who was the creator, they agreed that there would only be 21 million Bitcoins ever created. Now, Bitcoin has a currency value that's based on exchange rates, based on supply and demand. Currently, the price of Bitcoin's in the 46,000 range. Bitcoin has gone all the way from a few $100s to 10,000 down to 3,000, all over the map since it's been in existence, which is over 10 years. Right now, it's gotten extremely hot. If you look at the move on Bitcoin since January, when Elon Musk started buying it, it's gone increasingly high. And the reason it has is because it has a limited supply. It is a limited resource. Currently, of the 21 million that will ever be created, there are only 18.6 million in existence right now. So it does have value because others find it to have value. It as a store of value, and it is limited. So that's the reason that people are getting involved in it. When it maxes out and hits 21 million, there'll never be another created. So it will continue to gain value. And it's unlike the dollar, and this is sort of like a move against the dollar where we're printing money like no one's business, and the dollar continues to go down in value. And when we get inflation, the dollar will continue to go down in value. So your dollar becomes less, will have less purchasing power with your dollar. But Bitcoin, on the other hand, since it's trading more like gold, will actually continue to go up when we get inflation. Now, what's interesting, is people always talked about Bitcoin as being a haven, meaning when the stock market went bad, you'd run into Bitcoin. It's actually not really true because the correlation now is that, and it makes you think that regular investors, meaning people who are investing in markets, are also investing in Bitcoin. But you'll see now that it's correlated. If you look at the price of like the SPY, if you look at the S&P 500 over the price of Bitcoin, you'll notice that it's fluctuating and moving in the same kind of pattern now. So that means it's correlated. So when we had talked about before, I'd written articles about inversely correlated positions or negatively correlated, meaning when one thing goes up, another thing goes down. And that's what good portfolio management is about. But with Bitcoin, you're seeing now that it's actually trending what the normal S&P 500 market does. So that'll do it for today. There's a lot to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about it more in future episodes. This is Jeffrey. Again, you can reach me at jeffrey@jeffreycamus.com. We're getting 15 to 20, 25 questions a day. I try to answer them via email if I don't get them on the show. I appreciate the questions. We're continuing to grow. You have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.